So in these notes, we're going to extend on that unit circle we did in the last chapter. So remember, it's all the way around, right? This is like 0. This would be 90, 180, 270, and then 360. Also, one full time around is 2 pi, which makes halfway around pi, 90 degrees, pi over 2. And like 270 would be 3 pi over 2. So I'm going to refer to that unit circle a lot when plugging in these values. The other thing you're going to need to remember is your x coordinate and your y. Remember we said x is cosine and y is sine. So when I'm getting my, making my sine graph, I want to look at then my y values, okay? So at negative pi, well, that means if I'm at 0 and I go backwards to pi, what are those coordinates there? These are the coordinates. I'll try and do it in another color for you. X is going to be negative 1, y is going to be 0. And then this way, this is going to be x is 1, y is 0. And then x is 0, y is negative 1. X is 0, y is 1. All right, just to give you an idea. So at negative pi, going backwards to 180, my y value is 0. At negative pi over 2, which would be right here, my y value is negative 1. At 0, which is right here, my y value is 0. Pi over 2 is right here. My y value is 1. Then I'm at pi. My y value is 0. Then this, 3 pi over 2, my y value is negative 1. 2 pi, my y value is 0. Are you noticing a pattern? It's going 0, negative 1, 0, 1, 0, negative 1, 0. If you had to use inductive reasoning, you should guess it's 1. But if I go to 5 pi over 2, that puts me up at the 90 degree mark, which is, yes, y is 1. And then 3 pi puts me at the 180 again, and y is 0. Okay, so then when I graph it, this would be my x-axis, this would be my y. So when x is negative pi, see how on the x-axis here I have my radians, right? So at negative pi, y is 0. So my y-axis has the 1, 0, negative 1. My x has the radians. And then negative pi over 2, I put negative 1. Whoops. At 0, it was 0. At pi over 2, 1. Pi, 0. Negative 3 pi over 2, negative 1. 0, 1, 0. Okay, this is going to continue forever. All right. When we graph these, I'm only going to have you graph one pattern. So, or one period, which is just like one complete pattern, right? So if it starts at 0, then it would go up, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I only want 5 total dots. Okay, that's one period. All right. At 0, notice that your sine graph, it starts on the x-axis. And then it kind of makes an S, right? Doesn't this look like an S on its side? S for sine. All right, let's look at cosine. So again, you have that circle, the unit circle, right? And cosine is your x value. Sine is your y. Oops. Okay. So, again, this was 1, 0, 0, 1. You have your unit circle probably out in front of you. And 0, negative 1. All right. So this is your x value, right? So at negative pi, that means if I would to go from 0, go backwards to here, I want the cosine value, which is negative 1. And then at negative pi over 2, which means I stop here, I want the x value, which is 0. And then I have 0, which is right here. My x value is 1. Notice it's having the same pattern, right? At pi over 2, which is this 90 degree mark, my x value is 0. At pi, my x value is negative 1. 3 pi over 2, 0. The pattern is continuing, right? And then I'm going to go to the next one, 1, 0, -1. Okay. Then, when you graph this, same idea. The radians are your x, and the other values go on your y. Okay, so at negative pi, I'm going to go put a dot at -1. At negative pi over 2, at 0, at 0, 1, pi over 2, 0, pi, -1. All right, this would be one period because it's like going one full circle from where it started and repeated. All right, so this one's starting at like this one right here is the min. This would be like the max. And then when it comes back down to the min, you're done. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots, right? I'm going to continue just to show you that it's it keeps going if we wanted it to. 3 pi over 2 is 0, 2 pi is 1, 5 pi over 2 is 0, 3 pi is -1. So all it does is repeat. Oops, I didn't connect that very well. Okay, now if I would have started it, you know, on the x-axis, then it could look like a sine graph. So you just have to be careful of which way you're going with it. All right, let's fill in some vocab here, and then do a couple more examples, and we'll let you practice. So first, these are called trig functions. All right. They're just functions based upon the trigonometric ratios that we've studied, and they're usually written as in radians, which is why the x-axis has pi in it. Our next vocab word, functions such as y equals sine theta or y equals cosine theta are examples of periodic functions because, like I said, it's like one period, right? One 5-dot pattern, and then it just keeps repeating itself after that. The length of one of these is called a period, which I just said. And the amplitude of the function is half the difference between the min and the max value. So 1/2 min, actually I guess it should be max. Max minus min, right? That's 1/2 the distance between them. All right, so that's our vocab. I think the next page, yeah, I made letters on this page. So if I'm looking for which one of these is going to be the sine graph, because what did I say? Sine starts on the line, right? So you got to think sine, line. If I look at, oops, this is my starting point, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see how that makes an S? Okay, so the period is 0. It starts at 0, and it goes to 2 pi. And then the amplitude, well, this is the highest it goes, so the max. And then this is the lowest it goes, so this is your min, right? And it's max minus min times 1/2. So this is 1. I guess I should do 1/2 first, sorry. And then your max is 1 minus -1. So this is really 1/2 of 2, which is 1. Okay, so your amplitude, A equals 1. All right, let's look at the other one. I mean, by process of elimination, this one's going to be cosine, right? But we can trace it by saying, all right, if I start at 0, I go down, and then this is the min. I start going back up, and then I come back to the max, right? So again, we're going to go from 0 to 2 pi. The amplitude is going to be, I'm going to do it over here this time, 1/2, the max is 1, the min again is -1. So your amplitude is just 1. Okay? And you can see that also. Notice how there's no number in front of the trig function. Then that means there's really a 1 there. So that also tells you your amplitude is 1. But if you have to calculate it from the graph, it's a little bit different. Because like in this one, they want us to figure out what A is. So the max here, looks like 4 and -4, right? So amplitude would be 4 minus -4 divided by 2. So what's that? 8 divided by 2. So it's just 4. Therefore, A equals 4. Right? So if I have to write the equation, it's y equals 4 in place of the A. And it already told me sine theta is now my equation. Okay? All right. Let's try graphing a couple together. I'm going to change my coloring here. Okay, so the first thing I want to point out is your amplitude is negative. And since there is no number there, that really means your A is 1. That means there also, we haven't gotten to it yet, but there's like a +0 here. So that means your line is 0. So 1 above 0 would be 1. And 1 below 0 would be -1. Okay. Our normal period, 0 to 2 pi, which we'll get to, but there is no period change here, so all you really need to know is we're going to start at 0, we go to 2 pi. Since we need to have 5 total dots, I'm going to divide this in half, so halfway between 0 and 2 is 1 and a pi. Halfway between 0 and 1 is 1/2, so 1/2 pi. And then halfway between 2 and 1 is 1.5, which is 3/2, so 3/2 pi. For now, this will always be our period. If the A is 1, this will always be our amplitude, okay? Then when we go to graph, sine starts on the line. So this is my line at 0, so my first dot goes there. Since the amplitude is negative, that tells me I go from 0 to -1, and then back to 0, and then +1, and then back to 0. Okay, I have 5 dots. Now I play the connect the dots game, and I made myself an S on its side. So I'm done. All right, let's look at cosine. This is very different, so it's going to take some practice. I'm sorry, there's something on my screen. All right, so again, I notice that this is a negative, and there's really like a 1 there in front, right? So your amplitude is 1. There's no vertical shift, so my line is 0. 1 above my line is 1. 1 below my line is -1. The period is still going to go 0 to 2 pi. So 0, 2 pi. Halfway between that is 1 pi. Halfway between that is pi/2. And halfway between those two is 3 pi/2. Okay? Cosine starts at either the min or the max. In this case, since it's negative, it's going to start at the min. All right? So I'm going to put my first dot at -1, and then pi/2, and then the max, and then the line, and then the min again. Okay, then when I connect it, it looks like kind of like a C on its side, C for cosine, but it's upside down because it's negative. Okay, at any point you can stop this, replay the video, or just watch it and then try it on your own and then rewatch. All right, but I'm going to do 2 more. And I'm looking here and I see amplitude is 4, but I know the line is 0. So it's going to be 0. The max is going to be 4 because it's 4 above the line, 4 below the line. The period is staying 0 to 2 pi. So 0 to 2 pi. And then I have pi, pi/2, 3 pi/2. Okay. This is sine. Sine starts on the line, right? So it's going to go on the line. It's positive, so then I go to the positive value. And then I go back to the line. And then I go to the min. And then I go back to the line. I double count that I have 5 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It makes an S. It's on its side. I have all my things labeled, so I'm good to go. All right, we're going to look at the next one. So, again, the period is 0 to 2 pi. So 0, 1/2 pi, or pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, which is just pi, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2, which is just 2 pi. Sorry, I was tracking my finger, now it's getting stuck. All right, my amplitude is 2, my line is 0. So that means max is 2, min is -2. It's cosine, so it's either going to start at the max or the min. If it's positive, it starts at the max. In this case, it is positive, so my first dot goes up here. There's only one place to go from the max. You go to the line. Then you go to the min, back to the line, back to the max. And I just double check. It should look like a C or a cup. It should be positive, so it should hold my water, right? All right, so that's all the things. At any point, again, pause it, try it, redo it. All right, this is what I want you guys to do for your classwork, homework, whatever. So I will do a couple from each section so that you have it. In the first section, they just want us to find the amplitude. So that's just the number in front, 3. Or here, there isn't 1, so it's positive, right? I mean, it's 1. All right, so like here, the amplitude is just 1. Here, the amplitude is 3. You don't take the negative with it, so I would just say like 2/5 and 1/2, okay? Here, they want us to find the amplitude and the period of the given graph. So if I start here at 0, 0, and I go this way, it will make an S, so I know it's sine. It's going to go 0 to 2 pi. And then your amplitude is, let's see, your max is 2, and your min is -2. So your amplitude is 2. Okay. This one, it looks like your max is what, 1/2 and -1/2. I want you to pause the video, try these next 3, and then you can keep playing it to check your answers and pause it again while you check. Okay, so here are the answers for the other 3. Okay, here are a couple more. So first thing I notice, it's sine, and the period is going to be 0 to 2 pi. All right, it's going to be that for all of the ones we do today. So it's going to be 0 pi, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. The amplitude is 1, so max is 1, min is -1. And then I say sine starts on the line. So the first point is going to be on the line. It's positive, so then I go to the max, down to the line, down to the min, back to the line. I've done my 5 dots. I connect them. I'm done. Okay? Cosine. Amplitude is 1. So that means 1, -1, 0. I start at 0. Pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. This part's not going to change yet, guys. The x-axis is going to stay the same, okay? It's cosine, so it either starts with the max or the min. It depends if it's positive. In this case, it is positive. So I go positive, max, line, min, line, max. I connect my 5 dots. It's cosine, so it shouldn't look like an S. It should be more of a C. All right. I'm going to start you on the next one. Again, the period is going to stay. Oops. 0, and then pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi. Okay, but this time the amplitude is 2. So my max is 2, my min is -2. And then you go ahead and graph its sine, so the first point should go on the line, right? And then it's positive, so I go to the max, line, min, line, connect your dots. All right. The only difference with the following one is it's negative. So it's still going to have amplitude 0. The x-axis is still going to be 0 to 2 pi. Okay, cool. So now the only difference is on that, well, the first point is still going to go on the line. But then rather than going to the max next, you go to the min, and then back to the line, max, back to the line. Okay? All right. To show me that you have taken the notes, please do 5 and 6 and screenshot it and upload it with the today's video notes. I'm going to have you do one more on the back side. I'm going to do the first 3 and then let you do one. Okay. So this, the max is 3, the min is -3, and then when I sketch it, I see that it's sine, right? So I know it's going to be y equals your amplitude is 3 sine theta. Okay, so then look at these, and you say like, okay, here it is, here to here. Well, that's a cosine. So cosine theta. Your amplitude goes to 1/2 and -1/2, so it's 1/2. All right, this one starts at the line. It goes 0 to 2 pi, and it's sine. So it's sine theta. Your amplitude is 0.25 and 0.25, so that's 1/4. Okay. Okay. So that was 1, 2, 3. Do number 4 along with 5 and 6 here. Okay, so you're doing number 4 on that note sheet. And upload. All right, make sure to come to the Zoom conference if you have questions. Questions at 3 p.m. Zoom conference. Okay, and we'll have much more practice with this stuff. Thanks.